everybody, how is it going? It's the Fuzz! We're gonna have a very short talk today about the importance of the Conquest format. The Conquest format, of course, is the preferred format that the developers use for their big tournaments, including the Masters Championship. Now, in the past, there have been some criticisms of the system, but honestly, after having watched and spectated a number of qualifiers and cast a number, or actually all of the Masters tournament, honestly, I am liking it kind of more and more because, okay, there's like two major things that Conquest format does that I think is really good. So first of all, it allows us like a picture of what the meta and what the games would look like if a certain card or cards were simply not in it. So the simplest example of this, of course, is the banning of Wisdom Dominion, or Basic Despina in general. When you're banning that, you're mostly just banning Cataclysm, because Cataclysm is the enemy of all mid-range decks, and if you want to run mid-range decks, well, you would just lose to Cataclysm, right? So you may decide, you know what, I hate Cataclysm, I'm just gonna ban that crap, and you don't have to worry about it. So, it's actually very nice. I know we talked in the past about how removing Cataclysm wouldn't necessarily be so good, but actually, it's not that bad. Now, I wouldn't just remove it. I think you kind of have to balance it all out so that we can have a good meta without having to ban anything. But from what I've seen, it wouldn't actually be that bad. We would have a lot more mid-range going on. Yeah, control would probably just die, but I mean, what are the control decks anyways? Like one turn heal, which is super boring, and dragon combo, which is just you wait to die by dragon. Not much of a loss, in my opinion. So that's what I like about it. I get to see a different environment where players are free of that. I mean, you don't have to just ban Cataclysm. You could decide to ban Coronas because, I don't know, you hate implants or something, or you hate aggro. That's awesome. The second main thing that it does has to do with these tournaments being a lot more skill-oriented. See, it's not possible to design a deck that can counter everything, right? You know, you can't be able to counter aggro and still contend with, like, dragons, but, like, not lose to mid-range as well. There's just too much going on. So what Conquest allows you to do is figure out which of those three you are simply not going to play around, and you're just going to ban it. Now, banning aggro is not so easy because players could just bring like 3 aggressive decks, but you can decide which of them you don't want to deal with because they are different. The Crazy Rage has burn, so while their early game may not be as strong, they have burn to finish you off. So if that's a weakness you can't deal with because let's say your deck has no healing, deal with that. Implants, on the other hand, have no burn, but they have access to things like Overcharger and, you know, Slave Gladiator. They can throw out a lot of garbage on the board, and they can run things like Library Guards, Mutant, and Minotaur. So if that's a problem, if you have trouble clearing those, you would rather deal with the goblins, just hit Coronas. You can design your strategy a lot more deeply this way. And it really is the reason why you see a lot of the same names up there over and over again, because, yeah, they understand how the meta works. They know what's good against what. They can even customize some of their decks to look like different ones so they can counter something else specifically. Now, personally, I don't like this whole idea of like a counter meta where, you know, 60% of the game is decided about who has the better matchup just by the decks. Like, oh, yes, I got the deck that I counter. In my dream world, it shouldn't matter that much what deck you have, you know, somewhat, but not so much. It should be what the players do, not what deck you're running. You shouldn't just lose a game because your deck is just always countered by something. But I live in, you know, in a world of unicorns, rainbows, and sunshines where the meta is always balanced and the games are always fun. Unfortunately, this world does not exist. So, this is the world we live in. Yep, that about wraps it up. Really short one today, but I I did want to bring this up because I really like this. I really like being able to just not deal with something. This is also the basis for my Fuzzy Bolt challenges, where each player is able to deliberately ban things they don't want to play against. It might not necessarily have to be banning like the best cards your opponent might use. You might just not want to play against aggro, so you just hit every single aggressive card that you can. And then you play mid-range, for instance, or you play control. There's a lot of possibilities out there in Spellweaver. It's just that a lot of them don't get explored because right now we're in a situation where there's like very extreme decks out there. You've got the aggressive ones, the Coronas Red being, I'd say, the flagship right now, where like they just flood the board really fast, and if you can't defend against it, you just die. On the other end of the spectrum is the Wisdom Dominion with Dragon, who are very slow, but they have Cataclysm and like insta-win Dragon combos. And then in the middle, you have like basically Hermelian with like high-speed double attacking minions, and then there's like chickens in between all of that stuff. So with that going around, it's kind of hard to like play new stuff because it's always going to be like tier 2 or lower, because there are some cards which are just really, really good, and if you aren't abusing those cards, your deck is not going to be tier 1. Chicken, for instance, has a tendency to shut down a lot of stuff, but we're not going to rag on Dr. KFC too much over here. I just wanted to let you guys know I do want to try out some more Fuzzy Bolts, because it along with that Conquest format, it opens up the doors to a lot of other kinds of decks, like these secondary decks that maybe would be played and would be good if they weren't like suppressed by the current best deck. So yeah, hope we get to see more of that. Hope I get to put up a lot more Fuzzy Bolt challenges. Just finding opponents is annoying. If possible, I would like to just have a standardized Fuzzy Bolt list. Like, certain cards are just always banned, and we don't have to pick. But picking is interesting because you can kind of try to mess with your opponent a little bit. You can decide what you want to play against, what you don't want to play against. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Anyways, thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next video. I'll try to maybe something a little bit more positive, a little bit more fun. But hey, I like these little talks, talking about issues. Let me know what you think about this. Do you like Conquest? Do you dislike it? Should we have a ban list? Could we have a ban list where you just don't deal with certain cards? A ban list that rotates? I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that could happen. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Okay, my hat was supposed to fall off with the first time. I fucked it up.